Afternoons with Jamie East on Talk Radio.
The festivities are looming for all of us. I've just found out. I thought I was going to be able to go home straight from the show because I'm out tonight. I've got to go into Oxford Street, which is, I mean, why? I was there this morning. Why are people subjecting me to this hell? But there we go. But and we all spend so long and try so hard to be happy over this festive period, don't we? It's for some a struggle, and for some it's forced fun. There's nothing worse. I mean, New Year's Eve is just forced fun. It's the worst night out of the year, and don't at me about that. It just genuinely is. Stay at home, go to bed at 10, job done. But for a lot of people, there are a lot of bridges to get over, a lot of things to have to cope with at Christmas time. It's not always as easy as just inviting all your family around, opening the bubbles, getting drunk, watching the Queen and falling asleep after having some leftovers in a sandwich. It doesn't always work like that. On the line, we've got Honey Langcaster-James. Honey, how you doing?
Hello, I'm okay, but like you, I'm sort of stressed in that run-up to Christmas and trying to brave the crowds and starting to feel like I'm over it already.
I thought I was done. And just like Godfather 3, they dragged me straight back in, and I've got to head back in there. But listen, honey, for a certain amount of people are daunted by the Christmas time, the Christmas period. There are a lot of moral dilemmas that they've got to get around. Let's take an example. Someone who's skint at Christmas, and someone who's alone in being skint at Christmas. How do you cope with that? Because that's a tough one. That's a really tough one, because pretty much everything around Christmas has something to do with money.
Yes, that's right. And I think people actually often don't realise just how many people that applies to. It's very easy when you sort of see everybody laden down with their shopping bags and you see all the glossy advertising on television or whatever, to think that everyone else is, buying in abundance, when actually there's a lot of people for whom, Christmas is a really difficult time of year financially. And there are many, many people who are having to sort of say, well, I just can't afford this. Or they're stacking things up on credit cards, or they're finding other ways to pay, which they then obviously struggle to pay off later on. And it's a real challenge for people. And I think one of the things that really saddens me so much about Christmas is that people do feel under increasing pressure to spend. And actually, I think for the most part, we're probably suffering at all ends. It's not great for the environment, all of the stuff that we were buying and all of the packaging. It's not great for the pocket because we often struggle financially. And actually, is it what people really need at Christmas? I don't know that it is. I know certainly as a parent myself, I've probably got that balance wrong in the past, where you sort of focus so much on buying things that actually you just end up stressed and wound up, that everyone ends up arguing, and you think, well, what was all this money spent for anyway? It's all over in a puff of smoke, and that's it.
Well, you realise quite quickly that they'd have been happy with half the amount.
Yes, yeah, and often the packaging or a box itself for young children as well.
Yeah, even for a 25-year-old, just give them a box. It's absolutely fine. And honey, another kind of thing that some people, or a lot of people, probably more than we realise, have to deal with are family rifts. They can. Throughout the year, they're just something that just happen and slowly fester away. But at Christmas, we're kind of expected to let bygones be bygones, break the bread, and just make friends. It's not quite as simple as that, though, is it?
No, it's very, very difficult. It's actually something that I've faced even in my own family, and I've faced it with many, many clients and many people that I work with. That I think it's actually one of the hardest things when, again, we're fed this image of everybody getting along well at Christmas and everybody putting their various difficulties aside to kind of get along wonderfully. And for some people, that's great. For some people, it is a way of catching up with people that you wouldn't see the rest of the year, and that's brilliant if that's you. But there are an awful lot of people for whom Christmas is an extremely difficult time for them to cope with, and it brings up a lot of very unhappy memories. Certainly if there are estrangements, rifts in the family, it can be extremely painful for people, because it is that reminder, that our family isn't functioning as you would like it to, or as everybody wishes it did. And certainly when you're sort of given these unrealistic, often, images of everybody getting along wonderfully, it can really be like rubbing salt in the wounds for a lot of people.
And what do you recommend then as a professional? What do you say when people come to you and go, look, I've fallen out with my dad. We've not spoken for years. I feel as though I should, or maybe there's part of me that thinks now's the time to kind of reach, offer them an olive branch. Is it a bit like buying a dog? Don't do it at Christmas.
I think it's so dependent on the unique situation. I mean, for some people who perhaps, there's been a bit of a rift and they're almost sort of wanting to repair things and needing a kind of a little push or a nudge to get in touch with someone, then sometimes Christmas can kind of give an opportunity to do that in a way that sort of doesn't seem out of the blue. You can send someone a Christmas card or say, look, thinking of you at Christmas, and that's a sort of way of getting the olive branch out there. So for some people, that can be a great way of perhaps healing a rift or just starting to make a step towards someone that you want to repair a relationship with. I think then there are other people for whom the honest truth about relationships is that there are some relationships that really are unhealthy for people to be embroiled in. And actually, if you find yourself feeling under pressure to get in touch with people who really don't sort of enhance your life or don't support you or actually make you suffer in life or cause you greater difficulty, then don't feel under pressure just because it's Christmas time to have contact with those people if it isn't healthy for you and if it actually causes you difficulty or emotional struggles. So that's when it becomes more of a pressure than an opportunity.
Yeah.
I think what you have to do is really think about what's right for you. And if Christmas is something that, gives you that opportunity to send an olive branch, brilliant. But the sad fact is that not all relationships are healthy to be in. And so sometimes you do have to stay away, whether it's Christmas or any other time of the year.
And finally, honey, while I've got you, I asked around in the Talk Radio offices for any questions that people had, and someone raised a good one. It said, what do you do at a family Christmas when you've got an ex-alcoholic or someone who's now sober? Is it still fair to have a bottle of wine on the table, or should everybody follow suit and drink water or orange juice?
I think it is a difficult issue. I think it's one that warrants conversation before the day. So if you know that someone's coming round, or you know that someone in the family has an issue with alcohol, then the respectful thing to do is to ask them and say, look, this is what we would normally do at Christmas. However, I don't want to raise a sensitive issue particularly, but we would love to just know, how do you feel about that? And open up that dialogue, because you shouldn't just assume that because someone is, perhaps sober or whatever, that they would find it difficult for you to drink around them. But at the same time, it does show sensitivity if you raise that conversation and say, look, we'd just like to know how what you think about this. But of course, everybody wants to have a nice time at Christmas. And for many people, a part of that is sort of sharing a bottle of wine. So maybe it is about, if you've got someone in that situation, having them for part of the day and saving the drinking for another time. It really is about open dialogue. And to be honest, that's the same with many issues and difficulties at Christmas. I think if we have a little bit of a conversation a bit earlier and in advance of the big day or the period itself, then you can get over some of those hurdles without it becoming a big issue, on Christmas Day itself.
Wonderful. Honey, thank you so much. And presumably, I mean, you've got all the answers, so I guess Christmas round at the Honey House is just smooth running.
Oh, far from it. It's quite the opposite, Psychologists and their families are always the worst.
It's like Kevin McLeod, who runs Grand Designs, about his house is a shambles. Listen,
absolutely.
That's Honey Lancaster-James, who's a TV psychologist. Thank you so much for talking to us. Right, we're going to grab a break.